Okay guys, welcome back. So I've gone ahead and what I've done here is, this is my power supplies. So I've decided to mount them this way instead of stacking them this way, because I'm only using 3 with only 3 drivers and it's a fairly big enclosure that I've got. Then I have got the room to do that. So what I've done, like I said before, is I've stuck these down here. The templates I've already gone and center punched all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drill these out, make sure the power supplies fit. Once I've done that, then I'll mount the drivers here. Whenever I try and build these enclosures, I try and make some sort of sense to them. So with the other case that I built, I had all the power supplies over the other side and the drivers coming from this side and the breakout board, etc. But when I'm mounting the drivers, I always mount them in X, Y, Z and then A. Some people might prefer to do it different, because the way I run my machines that have 4 axes or use 4 motors, not necessarily a 4th rotary axis or anything, when 2 are slaved or paired together, some people like to do X and A or Y and A, depending on how they've got the machine set up. I usually have, personally, my gantry is Y, Z is router, but moving the gantry back and forth is usually my X. It's just how I prefer to run it. But the slave on the X is usually the A. But when I read in a lot of forums, I usually see X, Y, Z, and then every slave axis or every axis after that usually goes to A, B, C. So that's how I like to lay things out as well. But as I said before, some people like to do X and A together, so that they know that they're the 2 slaved or paired drivers together, and then they do Y and Z. But like I said, X, Y, Z and A, just sort of run some, things through there, that, or some understanding, so that in 5 years time when I come back, I guess I'll never forget, but if I do happen to, when looking at this enclosure, my other enclosure, those sort of things, I always know that that's the way they're going to be laid out. And if anything goes wrong with the machine, like one of the axes stopped working, or something dies, then it's easy to just come back and go, okay, well that's the X-axis, that's the Y-axis, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these out. When I mount the drivers, those there, one of the things I use is a button head self-tapping metal screw. So it's just easy. Like I said, you can go through the same thing. You can make up templates and center punch them and that sort of thing, but just using these, just screw them straight down, go straight through like butter, and yeah, it works. So I'm going to continue on with that and I'll get back to you soon. Okay, so I've gone through, I drilled everything right through, and here's the finished product. So all power supplies mounted. What determined me to mount the power supplies this way is that all these screws are facing up, so I can get down with the screwdriver. All these flip up, so I got access to the screws. The other machine I built had all the screw terminals facing out, so I flipped them up on their side so I could get in from underneath and use a screwdriver this way. But in doing all of this, there's, the old saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat. This method you may not particularly like, but this is what works for me. And I've come to the conclusion that if it's easy and it works, then why not? So the next step for me now is to mount the drivers. So same thing, I'm going to mount the drivers under each of these, but in doing all of this you got to make sure that you leave yourself enough room for wiring and that sort of thing. So like I said before, to screw these down I'm going to use the button head self-tapping metal screws, and it's quick, it's easy, you don't have to print anything out, you don't have to use a center punch and drill, you just screw them straight down. And if at a later time you want to take them out, the hole's already there if you want to put a bolt in, and it's not hard to not line them up because you're screwing them straight down. So I'm going to take all these off again so I don't get metal filings in each one of these, because that'll be the end of those if I do. And yeah, we'll continue on. Alrighty, so back again. As you can see here, the drivers are mounted. The reason I mounted them this way, let's see if I can put this down on my knee for a second, was because these have a little screen on them. To be honest, I'm not sure what they do yet or what they're going to read out. So I bought all these online, just through a Chinese supplier. So really looking forward to see what they read out. Really quite impressed with these because they have their own little inbuilt fan in them as well, so it'll be good for keeping those nice and cool, hopefully. But they were super easy, just like what I said before, little button head self tapper, straight in, done. To mount all these three, minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe. Quick measure up, line up. So the other things I've got to do on this still is on this side I've got one little power supply to mount on. That's just a little 5-volt power supply. That is for powering up the breakout board I've got. The breakout board I've got is, I can't remember the exact number of it, but it's on Homan Designs is where it's coming from. He only sells one anyway that I'm aware of. So that breakout board I'll be mounting down there. So yeah, that's basically it for the moment. But once I get the little power supply breakout board done, then I'll come back and check in again. I'll be using the same method for mounting those two. Printing off a drawing from my CAD software and sticking it down, center punching it, drilling it out so everything goes on nicely, and wiring it up and going from there. But I'll keep checking in.